President Biden goes to visit the Queen of England. As the presidential airplane arrives at Heathrow Airport, President Biden is warmly welcomed by the Queen. They are driven in a car to the edge of central London, where they get into a magnificent 17th century carriage hitched to 6 white horses. They continued toward Buckingham Palace and waved to the crowds gathered to greet them. Suddenly, the right rear horse lets out the loudest fart ever heard in the British Empire. The smell is awful, and both passengers cover their noses. The 2 dignitaries of state do their best to ignore the incident. Because the smell lingers, the Queen feels she must say something. She turns to President Biden and says, "Mr. President, please accept my regrets. I am sure you understand there are some things that even a queen cannot control." Biden looks at her and replies, "Your Majesty, I completely understand. Until you mentioned it, I thought it was one of the horses." So an old Jewish tale tells of a pious man who, upon reaching the wise and esteemed age of 105, suddenly stopped going to temple after so many years of faithful attendance. Alarmed by the old fellow's absence, the rabbi went to see him. He found him in excellent health. So the rabbi asked, "How come after all these many years, we don't see you at services anymore?" The old man looked around and lowered his voice. "I'll tell you, Rabbi," he whispered, "when I got to be 90, I expected God to take me any day. But then I got to be 95, then 100, then 105, so I figured that God is very busy and must have forgotten about me." "So?" the rabbi asked indignantly. "So," whispered the man with a finger to his lips, "I don't want to remind him." So I recently picked a new primary care physician. After 2 visits and exhaustive lab tests, he said I was doing fairly well for my age. A little concerned about that comment, I couldn't resist asking him, "Do you think I'll live to be 80? He asked, "Do you smoke tobacco, or drink beer, or wine?" "Oh no," I replied. "I'm not doing drugs either." Then he asked, "Do you eat ribeye steaks and barbecued ribs?" I said no. My other doctor said that all red meat is very unhealthy. "Do you spend a lot of time in the sun, like playing golf, sailing, hiking, or bicycling?" "No, I don't," I said. He asked, "Do you gamble, drive fast cars, or make a lot of love?" "No," I said. "I don't do any of those things." He looked at me and said, "Then why do you want to live 80? A very elderly gentleman, mid-90s, very well dressed, hair well groomed, great suit, flower in his lapel, smelling slightly of a good aftershave, presenting a well-looked-after image, walks into an upscale cocktail lounge, walks into a bar. Seated at the bar is an elderly lady, mid-80s. The gentleman walks over, sits alongside of her, orders a drink, takes a sip, turns to her, and says, "So tell me, do I come here often?" An elderly man rear-ended a guy driving an expensive sports car. Enraged, the guy hops out and confronts the old man. "Look what you did to my car," he yells. "You're going to give me 10,000 right now, or I'm going to beat you to a pulp." "Oh my," says the old man, "I don't have that kind of money. Let me call my son. He trains dolphins, and he will know what to do." "Dolphins?" the other driver huffs while rolling his eyes. The old man pulls out his phone, dials his son, and just as his son answered, the irate man snatches the phone away from the old man. "So you're a dolphin trainer, huh? Well, your old man here just rear-ended my car, and I need 10 grand right now, or I'm going to beat you and your old man to a pulp." "I'll be there in 10 minutes, says the voice calmly on the other end. Exactly 10 minutes later, a jeep pulls up, and a guy hops out and proceeds to pulverize the bully, leaving him in a heap on the side of the road. When he finished, he walked over to his father and said, "For the last time, Dad, I train SEALs, Navy SEALs, not dolphins." So, a distraught senior citizen phoned her doctor's office. "Is it true," she wanted to know, "that the medication you prescribed has to be taken for the rest of my life?" "Yes, I'm afraid so," the doctor told her. There was a moment of silence before the senior lady replied, "I'm wondering then, just how serious is my condition, because this prescription is marked no refills." So, three old men are discussing their failing memories. The first old man says, "Today, I was at the top of the stairs, and I couldn't remember if I had just gone up or was about to go down." The second old man says, "I was sitting at the edge of my bed, and I couldn't remember if I was about to sleep or just woke up." The third man scoffs and says, "My memory is as good as ever, knock on wood." With this, he hits the table twice with his knuckle, looks up in surprise and yells, "Who's there?" Two medical students were walking along the street when they saw an old man walking with his legs spread apart. He was stiff-legged and walking slowly. One student said to his friend, "I'm sure that poor old man has Peltry syndrome. Those people walk just like that." The other student says, "No, I don't think so. The old man surely has Zovitsky syndrome. He walks slowly and his legs are apart, just as we learned in class." Since they couldn't agree, they decided to ask the old man. They approached him, and one of the students said to him, "We're medical students and couldn't help but notice the way you walk, but we couldn't agree on the syndrome you might have. Could you tell us what it is?" The old man said, "I'll tell you, but first you tell me what you two fine medical students think." The first student said, "I think it's Peltry syndrome." The old man said, "You thought, but you are wrong." The other student said, "I think you have Zovitsky syndrome." The old man said, "You thought, but you are wrong." So they asked him, "Well, old-timer, what do you have?" The old man said, "I thought it was gas, but I was wrong too." My friends, if you want to watch other funny jokes, subscribe to the channel.